In this episode, we're going to shift gears from threat analysis craftsmanship to something that directly affects how your hard work turns into a passing score, which is how to approach exam day with a plan. The GIAC Certified Threat Intelligence (GCTI) exam is not only testing whether you recognize concepts, because it is testing whether you can apply disciplined thinking under time pressure and make good choices when multiple answers sound plausible. Beginners often underestimate how much exam performance is influenced by pacing, attention control, and decision hygiene, and they overestimate how much raw memorization will save them if they panic. Exam day tactics are not tricks, because they are ways to protect your recall, protect your time, and protect your accuracy when stress tries to interfere. The goal is to walk in with a calm routine, a deliberate strategy for reading and answering, and a method for handling uncertainty so you do not hemorrhage points on questions you actually understand. You are not trying to be perfect, because you are trying to be consistent. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at CyberLive in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A strong exam day starts before you ever sit down, because the first mistake many learners make is arriving mentally scattered. The night before, your job is not to cram new material, because new material is the least stable kind of memory under stress. Your job is to reinforce what you already know by doing a light review of your own notes, focusing on definitions, model distinctions, and how concepts connect. You want to sleep enough that your working memory is functional, because the exam will ask you to compare options, hold conditions in your head, and notice small wording differences. On the morning of the exam, keep your routine simple and predictable, because novelty increases stress, and stress reduces recall. You also want to plan your physical needs, such as hydration and comfort, because even small discomfort can drain attention over time. The point is not to be dramatic about exam readiness, but to treat your brain like a tool that performs better when it is rested and steady. Once you begin, pacing becomes the central skill, because time pressure is the environment where careless mistakes happen. Many learners either rush early and misread questions, or they get stuck on a few hard questions and run out of time at the end. A disciplined approach is to move through the exam with a steady rhythm, answering what you can answer confidently and marking what you cannot resolve quickly. The moment you feel yourself rereading the same sentence multiple times, that is often a signal that you are stuck in overthinking rather than progress. In that moment, the best move is often to choose the best current answer, mark it, and continue, because later questions can sometimes trigger recall that makes the earlier question clearer. The exam is not arranged to reward perfection on the first pass. It rewards finishing with as many correct answers as possible. A pacing strategy protects you from the psychological trap where one difficult question consumes the time that could secure multiple easier points. Reading discipline is another high-impact tactic, because many exam errors come from misunderstanding what the question is actually asking. Security concepts often have similar terms, and exam writers know that readers confuse them, so wording matters. A useful habit is to slow down just enough to identify the command in the question, such as select the best explanation, identify the most defensible conclusion, or choose the action that changes outcomes. Another habit is to notice scope words like most likely, best, first, and primary, because those words define what kind of answer is correct. If a question asks for the first step, an answer that is technically correct but later in sequence is wrong. If a question asks for the best evidence, an answer that is plausible but weak evidence is wrong. When you train yourself to extract the command and scope from the question, you reduce careless errors. This is not about reading slowly, but about reading deliberately so you do not answer a different question than the one asked. Many questions on this exam will test your ability to distinguish between similar models and to choose the model that best fits the problem. This is where your learning about the kill chain, the diamond model, and TTP reasoning becomes practical. If a question is about stages of an intrusion and how actions chain together, the kill chain lens is likely relevant. If a question is about linking events through adversary, capability, infrastructure, and victim relationships, the diamond model lens is likely relevant. If a question is about describing behavior patterns in a consistent way that supports detection and hunting, TTP thinking is likely relevant. The exam will often offer distractors that mix these models incorrectly, such as treating infrastructure overlap as identity attribution or treating a malware family name as a campaign by itself. When you see options that feel like category mistakes, that is a clue that the exam is testing conceptual boundaries. Choosing the right model lens for the question is often the difference between two plausible answers. Another exam day skill is recognizing when the question is really about confidence calibration rather than about raw technical facts. In threat intelligence, many decisions are about how strongly you can claim something based on evidence quality and visibility. The exam can test this by giving you evidence that is suggestive but not definitive and asking for the most responsible statement. In those cases, the best answer is often the one that acknowledges uncertainty while still guiding action, rather than the one that makes an overly strong attribution or impact claim. You should watch for answers that use absolute language like confirmed attribution or proven exfiltration when the evidence described is only indirect. You should also watch for answers that hedge so much that they become useless, because the exam usually expects disciplined, sober language that is still decision-oriented. When you think about evidence strength and consequences, you can often eliminate options that are either reckless or paralyzed. This is where your earlier episodes on pressure testing and sober language become direct exam tools. When you encounter a question that feels ambiguous, a productive tactic is to ask what the exam writer likely wanted to test, because many questions are designed around a specific misconception. For example, if the scenario emphasizes that infrastructure indicators can be shared, the question may be testing your ability to avoid overlinking and overattribute. If the scenario emphasizes timeline gaps or limited telemetry, it may be testing your ability to avoid claiming containment or impact without sufficient visibility. If the scenario emphasizes that multiple incidents share a technique but not procedures, it may be testing your ability to distinguish common techniques from meaningful campaign linkage. In these cases, the correct answer is usually the one that reflects the disciplined posture the course teaches, not the one that offers the most exciting conclusion. This does not mean you guess based on psychology, but it means you use the educational intent of the exam blueprint to guide you when facts alone do not separate options. Exams reward conceptual discipline, especially in threat intelligence. Elimination is one of the most reliable tactics for multiple choice performance, and it is especially effective in this domain because wrong answers often contain subtle overclaims. Start by eliminating answers that violate core principles, such as using weak evidence to support a strong identity claim, confusing indicator matching with behavior analysis, or proposing actions that are not aligned to the decision need. Next, eliminate answers that are correct statements but do not answer the question's command, such as providing a definition when the question asks for a best next step. Then compare the remaining options by looking for the one that is most defensible under the evidence described and most aligned with models like the kill chain and diamond model when those models are relevant. If two options are close, the tiebreaker is often which one would be safest and most useful to a leader or defender under uncertainty. This mirrors real intelligence practice, where defensibility and usefulness matter more than theatrical certainty. Elimination protects you from being seduced by plausible but wrong answers. It is also important to manage your mental state during the exam, because anxiety can cause you to miss details you would normally catch. When you notice your attention narrowing or your heart rate rising, a simple reset is to pause for a few seconds, breathe slowly, and reread the question command and scope words. This is not motivational talk. It is a practical way to restore working memory so you can compare options accurately. If you feel stuck, move on and return later, because your brain often resolves stuckness after you have seen other questions and relax slightly. Avoid the trap of trying to prove you are smart by solving the hardest question immediately, because the exam rewards points, not pride. Consistent performance across the entire exam beats brilliant performance on a few questions and missed questions at the end due to time. Treat your attention like a resource you must budget, because that is exactly what it is. A calm, steady pace is an exam tactic, not a personality trait. When you return to marked questions, approach them differently than you did the first time, because returning should be an opportunity to change your angle. Re-summarize the question in your own words, focusing on what it is truly asking and what evidence is provided. Then check each answer against that evidence, looking for the one that requires the fewest assumptions. In threat intelligence, the best answer is often the one that is most consistent with evidence discipline and that avoids overreach. If you are still unsure, choose the option that reflects responsible uncertainty while still enabling action, because that aligns with the core philosophy of intelligence work. Do not leave questions blank if the exam format allows selection, because a guessed answer still has a chance, while a blank does not. The goal of the second pass is not to become perfectly certain, but to reduce the number of questions where your choice is purely random. Even improving a few guesses into informed guesses can materially improve your score. Another important exam day tactic is to be careful with answer choices that contain absolute words or extreme framing, because those are common traps. In intelligence work, absolute certainty is rare, and responsible practice emphasizes calibrated language and evidence-based claims. An option that claims definitive attribution based on a single indicator is often wrong. An option that claims a single model explains everything without blending or context is often wrong. An option that implies a single control action fully resolves an intrusion without follow-up validation is often wrong. This does not mean all absolutes are wrong, but it does mean you should demand stronger evidence described in the question to support absolute language. Conversely, an option that is so cautious that it avoids making any recommendation is also often wrong, because intelligence work is meant to inform action. The correct answers often live in the disciplined middle, where evidence is respected and decisions are supported. If you learn to spot extremes, you can eliminate many distractors quickly. Finally, remember that maximizing your score is not only about answering questions correctly, but about avoiding unforced errors. Unforced errors come from misreading, from rushing, from forgetting what the question asked, or from letting one hard question derail your pacing. Your tactics should therefore be designed to reduce those errors, such as consistent reading discipline, consistent pacing, and consistent elimination. You want to leave the exam feeling that you executed a plan, not that you fought a chaotic battle. When you execute a plan, your true knowledge is more likely to show up in your answers. This is also why your learning in the course emphasized disciplined thinking, because disciplined thinking is exactly what exam pressure tries to disrupt. Exam day is where you practice the same restraint and clarity you would use in real intelligence work, just in a timed environment. As we wrap up, exam day tactics to maximize your score are about protecting your time, your attention, and your decision discipline so your knowledge can actually surface under stress. You prepare by resting and reviewing lightly rather than cramming. Then you pace by answering confident questions first and marking difficult ones for a second pass. You read deliberately to capture the command and scope words, use the right model lens for the question, and treat evidence strength and confidence calibration as core decision tools. You use elimination to remove options that overreach, misunderstand models, or fail to answer what is being asked, and you manage anxiety with brief resets so you do not give away points through careless mistakes. You return to marked questions with a fresh angle, choosing the option that requires the fewest assumptions and best supports responsible action. When you approach the exam this way, you convert your study effort into points more reliably, and you walk out knowing that you did not lose the pass to panic or poor pacing. That is what it means to maximize your score with professional, disciplined tactics.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit BareMetalCyber.com.